Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Nothing Zilch Nada. We're your hosts, Xavier Dean.
And Jacob Green.
Now, normally we just hop into the topic, but we have two things to discuss. First off, I want to say great job to everyone who took part in the intro process. So, Jake, great job with the music. It sounded great. Ellie, if you're watching this, great job with the logo. As you can see, it is now my background. And above all else, thank you, iMovie, for making the logo easier to make. Or making the intro easier to make. We still don't have a new outro, but that's going to come in the next video. Maybe the
Yeah,
video after.
it's gonna come. The weather got pretty hot this week. Like,
Hmm.
dude, it was so hot. I
Yes.
think I went through like three different shirts in one day. It's
Yep.
nuts.
Well, I know there was one day I ended up taking 4 separate showers because of how hot it was and everything we were doing. But speaking of the weather, time to hit uh thing to talk about before the actual topic number two, which is, for those of you who don't know, Jake and I live in Illinois, and we were recently hit with a slew of tornadoes this
Hmm.
past Thursday. One of which ended up hitting the east of our hometown. There was a lot of destruction. A couple houses are gone. So we just wanted to come in and acknowledge stuff like that happens, and if there's anything that we can do that's within our power to help anyone who's currently struggling with that, that we will be there to help.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean we haven't gotten a storm like that in a while, and like the storm also passed through my town. It was so bad that it took down the base of some of the trees from uh park that I live close by. Um,
Hmm.
Also, I have to say that so this actually leads over. So I already made an announcement about this in the last episode, but this coming, well, actually, no, when we release this video, it would be this
Hmm.
Wednesday. So this Wednesday, uh, June 17th from 5 to 7 p.m. My group, the Dream Project, will be playing at the Rose Bowl in Urbana, Illinois. We're going to be
Hmm.
playing some great music. A lot of them are actually going to be original compositions, which is going to be the first time since the group was formed 3 years ago that we would have the majority of stuff be original compositions. But of course, we still got one of our main bread and butters as well, which is video game arrangements. So
Hmm.
if you like listening to good music, you want to listen to real musicians perform. Well, I should say real musicians, real people playing music. Come and support us. We would love to have you around. Should be a nice day.
It should.
So
And I will
yeah,
do my best to try to make it. I can't guarantee I'll be able to make it, but I will try my best to make it. I know
yeah.
I've.
I plan on recording some videos of the music and then editing them so that way I could finally put some stuff on my channel, which I will talk about in a later date.
Hmm.
Um, but I say that because some of my couple of my pieces are related to Streeter, and uh, I will say that Streeter has now gotten more attention now because it made the news headlines. So now
Yep.
Streeter is like noticeable again. Because let me tell you, like I think that five different people over the course of the days between the storms were texting me saying like, "Hey, are things okay? I saw the storm pass by your town." I don't know what I am surprised by the fact that you have texted me and we haven't talked for so long, which like, I greatly appreciate it because just, some of the people I used to talk to a lot.
Mm.
It's either that or the fact that you actually remember that Streeter is a freaking town. Because there are some people that don't. Like I talk to some people, it's just like, oh yeah, I remember going to Streeter, or like, what the heck is Streeter?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's our mix of people.
Yeah. Okay. Done with announcements.
Mhm.
I got a topic for us today. Um, I feel like lately we've been doing topics that kind of cater to like one person or the other. Usually when we pick the topics, it's like, oh yeah, it's something that I'm interested in. But we kind of do our best to make sure it's something that both of us are kind of interested in, or
Mhm.
if there's a way for another person to like bounce off of.
Yes.
Um, in this case, this one caters more towards Xavier today, but I
Mhm.
think it's kind of interesting. So, uh, for those of you that don't know, there's the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has been
Mhm.
going on for, geez, I don't know how long, probably,
Well, it started back in 2008, so about 18 years.
yeah, 18 years. That's nuts. That's
Hmm.
nuts. You know, yeah, starting all the way with Iron Man and then going up until the most recent Marvel movies. Although, the initial phase of like the MCU, because I think most people, they kind of ended their MCU watching phase with Avengers Endgame,
Hmm.
because to most people that was kind of the peak. Although technically Spider-Man Far From Home is like the end of like one of the phases
Yep.
of the MCU.
Well, not only that, Far From Home is basically the end of the Infinity Saga.
Yeah. Uh so why are we mentioning this? Well, I saw a post on Instagram recently, and I've seen this in some other threads too, um, that say that Avengers Doomsday, which is one of the future movies coming in next year.
This year,
Next year?
end of
Oh,
this
oh,
year.
the end of this year. That's
Hmm.
soon. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's coming at the end of this year. Supposed to be a pretty big movie. They've been slowly teasing us about it, even doing like this countdown thing, which I don't know if that was a thing for Endgame too.
That
Um,
I don't think that was a thing for Endgame. I think it was
yeah,
just a
so
thing for Doomsday.
yeah, pretty big deal. It's got some returning people. I know there's some other new people from like the most recent MCU movies that are going to be a part of this movie, so
Hmm.
it should be pretty exciting. But there was a post that said that after supposedly after Avengers Doomsday, they're going to what's that word? They're going
Reboot.
Yeah, they're going to reboot
Hmm.
uh the MCU, like start over, maybe not entirely start over. I've actually seen some other posts since then that suggest that like they're gonna keep some things intact,
Hmm.
like they're gonna like be combining some universes together. Um,
It'll kind of
there.
be like a mix between how the X-Men sort of soft rebooted after X-Men Days of Futures Past, where you got different actors playing younger versions of, Jean
Mhm.
Grey, Scott Summers, and then a little bit from the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover from the Arrowverse, where Supergirl's universe and the Flash's universe collide together.
Mhm. Yeah. So whether that post is like entirely true or not, it did come from like one of the directors. I think I can't remember his name. Um, I think it's the one that's directing Doomsday.
Which
Uh,
one, Anthony or Joe Russo?
it might be Joe Russo.
Sounds like a Joe
Um,
thing.
yeah. See, this is why Xavier is the Marvel guy.
Hmm.
He knows that stuff better than I do. Um, but with that being said, um, whether that post is like entirely true or not, because like with these things, sometimes people kind of uh take information the wrong way, you know, with interviews like that or just small comments like that.
Hmm.
And people have this habit of like, oh, because this person says this, that means it's true. That's not always the case. That's
No.
not always the case. It's the same case with video games too. Like,
Hmm.
bro, there are these people that are so into like the theories and they want their theory to be true. That oh, if this director doesn't say this, then like, oh man, I'm gonna be so mad. Uh,
Hmm.
First of
Which,
all, guys, first of all, guys, it's just fiction. It's just
yes.
movies and games.
Hmm.
As much as we love movies and games and TV shows, Um,
Yeah, as much as you didn't want K2SO to die at the end of Rogue One, you still did. You gotta live with that. I'm still coping with it ever since the movie came out, but you gotta live with it.
yeah. Uh, yeah, but that is to say, uh, while we don't know if that's entirely true or not, I think it would be a good idea to kind of share our experiences with the MCU a little bit, but to really talk about, what are uh over the past few I say past few years, the 18 years that the MCU like started out, you know,
Hmm.
what's some stuff they got right? What's some of the stuff they got well, I shouldn't say got right or got wrong because that's talking about more in terms of like facts from like the comic books or whatnot.
Right, which
Um,
I could do, but that's not the idea for today.
Yeah. Well, but it's more about like direction.
Hmm.
It's like uh what are what are the things that they did to steer it in the right direction or maybe the wrong direction. Um and possibly some other things that like, things that we could do that if the MCU does reboot itself, what they could do to fix that and why a reboot might be kind of justified.
Hmm. Yeah. All right, I'd agree. So how do
Yeah,
we want to do this? Do we want to start at the beginning, or do we just want to hop through the timeline?
I'd say we start from the beginning, go through the timeline and why don't you start this off first, because you're the Marvel guy and you probably have a little bit more to say than I do.
All right. So starting in 2008, we had the release of Iron Man. Initially supposed to be a standalone film. At the end of the movie, they teased it becoming a little more of an extended universe with a post-credit scene involving Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury talking about the Avengers Initiative. Iron Man was basically the film that laid out the groundwork for the MCU,
Mhm.
focusing on a character whose entire identity became adapting and improving. We're in a horrible situation. We're gonna adapt to improve it. Yeah. Uh, I have a shrapnel coming to my heart. Currently, I am surviving because of this magnet or car battery. I'm going to create something to keep this from going in. We have no way of escaping. I'm gonna make an Iron Man suit. That suit was a bit clunky. We're gonna adapt it, make it a little sleeker. it I freeze up when we get into the sky. I'm going to adapt so that I don't do that. It again, Iron Man, especially with how the MCU approached with him, focuses more on the paranoid side and the this didn't work, let's improve side
Hmm.
of the character.
Hmm.
So when it comes to what they did right, at least for Iron Man as a movie, I felt like it was a great movie. I felt like focusing on a character that, like, so I know nowadays Iron Man's a household name, but back then Iron Man was more on the lesser end. If you read comics, you knew about him. Not too many people really knew about him outside of that because there wasn't really, I think there was one 90s TV show. I think he
Hmm.
showed up in a couple episodes of some other TV shows. But overall, Iron Man wasn't that big. So starting the MCU off with a smaller character, especially one that's all about new beginnings, I felt like that was a great thing. They introduced him with a villain that you can tell was stronger than he was,
Hmm.
but at the same time, not someone overly popular where you're like, I want to see him again in a later movie.
Yeah, this is actually, and maybe we could talk more about this a little bit when
Hmm.
we get to the other movies. And I'm not sure if we could summarize like every MCU movie, considering the fact that, well, I've not seen too many of the ones in the multiverse saga.
Right.
Um, yeah, but no, I think one of the strongest things about the MCU, even for people that really don't like some of the movies from the MCU, is
Hmm.
just the amount of great actors and their charisma, you know.
Hmm. Well,
And
I
like
know, I know, at least at the beginning, and you can kind of see it as time goes on, but Marvel, they didn't necessarily go with the biggest actors. They went
Mhm.
with like actors that were known, but they weren't well known.
Yeah,
Like,
Robert Downey Jr. wasn't supposed to be Iron Man initially, He
no,
was
it's supposed to be Tom Cruise.
yeah. Um Okay, that I did not know about. But no, like they weren't going to consider Robert Downey Jr., He was kind of at a low point in his life.
Hmm.
Um but I will say one thing too. I miss I don't know if this has been a thing or not. I miss the sequence when the hero uh makes their costume, you know.
Hmm.
And I love this progression too with Iron Man in particular because like in the newer movies he's got like the nanotech stuff.
Yeah.
So the suit is just naturally grafted to his skin. Um but back then, he had to put together everything himself.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh yeah, but I think that's the strongest aspect of the movie is the charisma. And like
Hmm.
I honestly want to go back to the Infinity Saga, watch those movies again. Uh
Yes.
and Iron Man in particular is just it's a good movie.
It is a
Good
good
movie.
movie. It is a
Hmm.
good movie. I would say prob see with Iron Man, it's really hard to think of something that they could have done to change the story
Hmm.
because overall, I feel like it is a great introduction you know, to any sort of extended universe.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I love, above all else, I love the fact that they kept the shared part of that universe
Hmm.
in the post-credit scene rather than focusing on, you know, like during the movie making references to this character or that character, which
Hmm.
makes sense because the MCU wasn't, that was the start. There isn't any reference to anything else.
Yeah, yeah. That
Mm,
that does the MCU did start the trend of like including post-credit scenes as an expectation for each and every of the Marvel movies, the MCU movies that they make.
mhm.
I mean, post-credit scenes were a thing in other movies beforehand, but
Yeah,
they
but they
weren't.
were, oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. They were less frequent.
Well,
With the MC,
not only were they less frequent, but they were less like, oh, we're going to use this to set up the sequel, and more, this is a little fun thing that we'll include. Like, I know Finding Nemo had a post-credit scene where that little fish was in the dark, the anglerfish comes up, and that little fish just eats the anglerfish. That was, it wasn't something to extend the plot, it wasn't something to set up someone new. It was
Mhm.
more of a, eh, we'll include this. People will laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. So Iron Man was like a pretty good start to the MCU. But
Hmm.
I hope that like with the reboot of the MCU that one they they keep the charisma, you
Hmm.
know, with whatever actors that they choose. I hope that we get scenes where, we see the heroes really develop themselves and have humble beginnings
Hmm.
and make their costumes because I think that's fun and I kind of
Yeah.
miss it. And three post-credit scenes.
Yes.
Those are fun. That third one is mostly a given, but
Mm.
I
Right.
feel like it's worth mentioning.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I feel like the genius of the post-credit scene is you have to sit through the credits. So you have to go through and see everyone who took part in making that film. Because when you think of movies, you most likely think of the actors. You probably think of the director. You'll think of the production company. But you don't think about everyone else. You don't think about who was part of the orchestra that uh recorded the score. You don't know, or you can't think of you probably don't think of the makeup artists. I know there's a whole situation where no one really thought about the writers. So post-credit scenes will allow you to sit and see everyone go through.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we get that would because like this is the first of phase one
Hmm.
and the first of three phases for what would become the Infinity Saga.
Yeah.
Um
Hey Jake, do you just want to talk about the phases as a whole? Just because if we went every individual project, that
yeah.
would be about
Yeah.
somewhere in the 30s at this point,
Yeah.
I want to
I
say.
I I will say um phase one was solid.
Yes.
I don't think we talk so much about Iron Man, but I'm not gonna lie, some of the other movies that came out afterwards are kind of mixed. Because
Hmm.
after that we got the Incredible Hulk, which I've actually not seen that movie all the way through, but that one it's got a way different tone, mainly because
Yes.
it was made by Universal.
Well, that too. But also that one wasn't intended to be part of a shared universe. That didn't
Yeah.
happen until Robert Downey Jr. came on the set and was like, "Hey, I want to include this."
Yeah. Um, Yeah,
So,
it's interesting. It was a very interesting phase for Marvel back then. But
yep.
no, we got Iron Man 2 and
Hmm.
Thor and Captain America the First Avenger and then the Avengers. Um
Yes.
Iron Man 2 was okay.
I
I
was recently in an argument with someone about Iron Man 2. They had
mm-hmm.
said that Iron Man 2 was the best superhero movie. It's nowhere close.
No, I there's some stuff in there. I've
Mm.
not watched it in a while. I've not watched a lot of these movies in a while. Well, Iron
Mhm.
Man 2 doesn't stick the same way as the first or third movies.
No,
Um,
which
yeah,
we will get to the third movie eventually.
yeah, we will.
Hmm.
Thor's whack.
I will forever say that Thor is my least favorite movie, at least in the Infinity Saga, just because I
Yeah,
hate the angle that they used for recording it,
yeah,
because they had everything in sort of an angle like this.
yeah, freaking Dutch angles.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. There was some cool aspects to the movie.
there were.
We should also mention too that the fun part about the Infinity Saga was the Stan Lee cameos.
Hmm.
Those are fun. Which, as much as we would like for that to be a thing, unfortunately, Stan Lee is not here anymore. So
So I've got a solution to that, but I'm gonna wait until the end of the episode to say that solution.
sure, sure. Get someone else. Yeah, get
Mhm.
someone else. Captain America: The First Avenger. I think that is a solid movie.
Yes,
I
that is.
I I I know there's some people that have some problems with it. I I think the best parts of Captain America were the beginning and the ending. The middle is kind of I can see why some people may not uh
Mm,
like it as much.
you're talking about just the first Avenger movie. You're not talking about the. Okay, I'm sitting here confused because I'm like, wait,
Oh
you're
no, no,
talking
no,
about?
no. Oh no, I'm not talking about Winter Soldier. Not
Yeah, I
yet.
was gonna say that's messed up. Thinking that that's
No, no, the
not.
ending is probably one of the best endings in the MCU,
Hmm.
period. Like, oh man, that was so bad. Also introduced one of the other best character, Steve Rogers,
Hmm.
you know, really great guy. But
Yes.
then there's the Avengers. This is probably for me and a lot of other people, this is what made us set on board for the MCU was this movie. This
Hmm.
movie, when it came out in like 2012, it was the thing.
Yes.
Like everyone went to see it, everyone was talking about it. It was one of the coolest things to happen.
Well,
And
I mean, I think up to this point, the idea of a shared universe wasn't really like there were shared universes, but it
Mhm,
was those shared universes came more through just small crossovers.
mhm.
With this came the idea of this big shared universe that's eventually spanned multiple different movies with multiple different characters.
Yeah. I actually rewatched Avengers. Um, not for like a college project that I did once.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure I still have the paper. Um, I forgot exactly what the assignment was. I think it was based around like the characters and how they like do teamwork together. Um, the thing that I noticed compared to the other movies in phase one was just that it just has a very solid pace
Yes.
from beginning to end.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
yeah. Beginning is kind of a little bit slow, but then around the point where like Loki comes in and does his thing,
Hmm.
it it, it's just great. And plus we got all these different actors together, which is awesome. And then some of the best scenes to grace the MCU too. If it
Yes.
wasn't for Avengers, I say phase one would be lower.
Hmm.
But with Avengers, you know, as well as Iron Man and Captain America, I think that that's like a solid phase right there.
Yes, that is
Um,
by far a solid phase.
yeah, I hope when we get a reboot of the MCU that we get a new batch of like Avengers
Hmm.
and we get individual movies to build like each of them up or
Right.
maybe couple the actors up. I'm not sure if they could do one for every character.
I'd say they probably well,
Because it could be a thing where like they feature two of the Avengers in one movie,
mm-hmm.
or
Right.
three. Um,
Right,
but
something like that.
yeah, but I hope they do that as well as show conflict because for when they first meet, because I think one of the best things about Avengers was that the heroes did not get along with each other at first. They had conflicting ideologies, which is,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of a thing with the Infinity Saga of the MCU is
Yes.
there's a lot of ideology and conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so phase one is solid. Phase two, which includes Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, Captain America Civil.
Nope, Captain
Oh,
America
wait,
Civil War
Captain
was
America.
phase three.
Oh, wait. Is it phase three?
Yep, so
Oh,
it began with Iron Man 3 and it ended with Ant-Man.
that's a weird ending. Well, okay. So this is interesting considering the fact that we got some pretty good movies in there. Well, actually, I think most of these are pretty good movies when you're talking about Iron Man 3,
Mm-hmm.
Captain America, The Winter Soldier,
Yep.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Um, yeah, those are a solid batch of movies
Mm-hmm.
right there.
Right. And I know there's a lot of people who who like to hate on films like Thor the Dark World or Avengers Age of Ultron, but they
Mhm.
still hold their purposes. With
Yeah.
Thor the Dark World, it helps set up this like darker evil that not everyone is able to face. It
Mhm.
builds on the bond between Thor and Loki.
Mhm.
It honestly gave one of my favorite Stan Lee cameos for the longest time, which was where he is in that home with Eric Selvig and Eric's explaining all this space mumbo jumbo and asks if there's any questions. And Stanley's like, "Yeah, can I have my shoe back?" Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know, young me cracked up every time I heard that.
Yeah. Thor the Dark World, that it's between that and the first Thor movie that I think is one of the worst movies in the Infinity Saga. Like they're just boring to me.
See,
Um
I at least found Thor the Dark World entertaining.
yeah. Well, it's better
Plus, plus, I don't think there was as much Dutch angles in the Dark World.
yeah, you got that at the very least.
Hmm.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Iron Man 3 is the fact that so this is one of the things that first came to my mind when it came to rebooting the MCU, and that is those movies that are not as essential to watch
Hmm.
in order to get the full like to keep up with like the main movies, which in which case it'd be the Avengers movies.
Yeah.
Um, but Iron Man 3 is a weird one because you don't necessarily need to watch it in order to get the stuff that happens with Infinity War and Endgame. But on
No.
the other hand, it's one of the best movies.
Hmm.
Like it's so fun.
It
It's
is.
so fun.
Well, one of my favorite parts about Iron Man 3 is the fact that, you watch the first two Iron Man movies, you see that Tony is heavily relying more on having suits around, having suits available.
Mhm.
But in Iron Man 3, there's a large segment of it where it's showing he's not just Iron Man, showing that
Mhm.
he's not, or he's like, to quote a movie from later on, or paraphrase a movie from later on in the MCU, proves that he is not just nothing without the suit.
Mhm.
You know, he is still resourceful. He's still able to fight, albeit maybe not to the same extent as some of the other heroes that he fights with, but he shows that he can still pull his weight without the use of an armor.
Yeah, yeah. But that brings something interesting. Do you think that for this reboot for the MCU, our version of a reboot for the MCU, like, would you keep some of those movies that are not as essential to watch for getting to like some of the main movies that are absolutely important that most people will see, but to
Mhm.
still make them good movies?
So I wouldn't just keep them. I would have it where the future of the MCU relies on these kinds of movies. Because
Mm-hmm.
yes, having them all in the shared universe, great. Having it where these movies connect to the overall, like an overarching theme, is great. But then you make it too convoluted. You make it so it's,
Yeah.
oh, well, now I've got to watch this to know this small thing about this movie. Instead, I feel like what the MCU should do is focus more on the standalone films where, yeah, you're gonna see that there's some change in the character, but that change isn't going to impact too much in it so that you have to watch that film to
Mm-hmm.
understand where the character is coming from in the next film.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I feel like there could be a way where like you include stuff from the movie that's like fun tips to know, because I'm
Mhm.
going in the to the perspective of like someone, a casual watcher that doesn't get to see as many movies.
Mhm.
Maybe they want to keep track of the reboot for the MCU, but they're not able to watch every movie. Because
All
let's
right.
face it, for both the Infinity Saga and probably the Multiverse Saga, you don't need to watch every movie to get some of these. And you know, like Thor 1, Thor Dark World, you don't need to watch those. Um, yeah. But then you got Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This
Hmm.
is Metal Gear Solid the movie.
Yes,
This is Metal
it
Gear
is.
Solid the movie. It's so fun. It's
Hmm.
so fun. Um, it also includes some of my favorite scenes from the MCU that still gets memed on to this day. The elevator scene.
Yep.
It's just very fun. But what's even bigger than that one was Guardians of the Galaxy. This
Mm.
is the movie.
Yes.
Like this and Avengers. Like Avengers solidified the crossover of the MCU. Like all these different characters coming together and face a threat bigger than each of them,
Hmm.
which is still a thing for a lot of these movies. But Guardians of the Galaxy, up to this point, they weren't really hammering on like the weird space stuff. Guardians of the Galaxy was the turning point where things got weird and they shoved it down your face, and I love it. It had a great cast of characters as well. And I think it also did some favors for Guardians of the Galaxy as well, because I don't
Hmm.
think they were that popular before
No. Well,
the
especially not this version of the Guardians.
yeah.
But then again, you also have James Gunn at the helm.
Hmm.
If you need someone to make a film of probably the least well-known groups, you call
Hmm.
James Gunn.
Hmm. Yeah, this one and a couple of the ones from the multiverse saga I see on a lot of people's like top
Hmm.
favorite like MCU movies. It's just really fun. It's just
Yes.
really fun.
And it's got a
Um,
killer soundtrack.
yeah, it's got a killer soundtrack with some of your favorite pop hits.
At
which
least
is
the
fine.
pop hits from the 70s.
Yeah, which actually, this brings up another thing that I think we should keep for a reboot to the MCU because I know there's talks. Well, actually, let's make it two things. I know there's been talks about making this, if a reboot does happen, to make it more grounded.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure about that. Maybe at first to keep it more grounded because I do think a slow build up to weird, complicated stuff is a good thing.
Right.
Um, but I still want to keep some of the weird space stuff because to me, that's some of the coolest aspects.
Right. No, I get
Uh,
that.
yeah, that's one of the coolest aspects of those movies is that weird stuff. I'm not saying every movie should have it,
Well,
but
no, but
at least for some of those bigger ones, because I think
mhm.
that's what made Infinity War and Endgame so much fun was those like space elements to it.
See, oh,
Oh no, go ahead.
no, I'll let you finish and then I'll go with Wiles.
Uh, um, well, I was gonna move on to my second thing, so
Oh, okay. So for me, when it comes to, having the movies more grounded, I feel like for certain characters, it would work better. Like,
Mhm.
maybe a more grounded Spider-Man movie would be, like, I'd be fine with that. Focusing
Yeah.
less on the extravagant villains that he fight or faces and more, the villains say he's gonna face in Brand New Day, the more street
Mhm.
level threats. I'd be fine with that for Spider-Man. I can see that working for Captain America or Iron Man. I feel like if you're going to include, like Hulk, it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to make a grounded Hulk film
Hmm.
when some of the biggest threats to the Hulk are these like big monstrosities or the US government with these
Hmm.
big like these weapons, you know, and Fantastic Four. Yeah, sure, you can try to make it a little more grounded, but they're
Hmm.
still a cosmic team. They get their powers from, the sky, or they got their powers from cosmic rays, not including some of the more monstrous characters like, you know, I know in this last Fantastic Four movie, they had it where the main villain was Galactus and they had Silver Surfer. I felt like that was great. Probably wouldn't have been my first choice for the first Fantastic Four movie in the MCU, but it still works. You know, I just can't imagine seeing the Fantastic Four going up against, say, Pace Pot Pete in their first movie.
Yeah.
All right, so what was your second point?
My second point is relating to what you said about the music. I still want uh those elements for like these future MCU movies because I think what
Mhm.
attracted people to the MCU, one of the biggest attractors to the people, the casual audience that got into the MCU is that they include stuff that's like, oh yeah, I recognize that
Mhm.
because phase two, in Ant-Man you got Scott Lang working at Baskin Robbins. In Captain Marvel, you see a blockbuster. Um, in Guardians of the Galaxy, in all the movies, they included songs, hits from like the 70s and 80s and 90s and all that great
Mhm.
stuff. Um, I still want to keep those elements for the MCU. Again,
Yes.
I don't think it should be every movie, but it'd be cool to have like a building that is a big known franchise that like gets demolished every time and it'd be like
It'd be like the cabbage stand from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say that. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. Um yeah. But then, we got Avengers Age of Ultron and Ant-Man.
Mhm.
Uh Avengers Age of Ultron's an all right movie. I
So, so I feel like Age of Ultron, it focuses more on the team dynamic. Like the first film, you had it where they teamed up, but they weren't really like you didn't really see them as a full-blown team. You saw them
Mhm.
as a bunch of heroes teaming up.
Mhm.
Avengers Age of Ultron is where you start seeing them become more and more of a team. You've got that budding relationship between Bruce Banner and Natasha Romanoff. You get that, and arguably, this is one of my favorite scenes from the film. But you
Mhm.
get that Avengers party where they're all
Yeah.
just talking to each other. It's not even a oh hey we got to go to this function. No, it's a hey we want to be here. We want to interact.
Yeah.
It shows Thor and Captain America sharing a drink. You've
Yeah.
got the whole oh I could totally pick up Mjolnir. Give me a sec.
Do
That
you
scene.
do
Hmm?
you think that the most recent MCU movies, because I think there are a couple that have done this, but I don't have there been any ones lately where we get scenes like that?
Um,
I know
not to that extent.
Fantastic Four had a couple.
Right. Well, that's because the Fantastic Four is Marvel's family. It's not
Yeah.
just. But when it comes to scenes like that, I'm trying to think. I don't think we've had something like that scene in a long while.
Yeah. I think that's something we could introduce a little bit more frequently. Not to the
Well, not
depends
to
on
the
depends on the type of movie that you're working with. Because
right.
like because it's cool to have those moments where like there's no action. It's
Hmm.
just it's just the heroes in not doing hero things and just talking to each other and having fun. Plus, it gave us a tease to Avengers Endgame for Age of Ultron in
Hmm.
that party scene.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that I would keep. I want to keep small hints for like each of
Right.
these movies that build up to the big movies because that is so fun.
Hmm. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like those like that specific scene, the scene where you see these heroes interacting with each other, I feel like
Mhm.
that is something really important because then you get like you don't really get anything to build on the plot, but you get stuff to build on the characters.
It
You
makes
want
them more relatable.
it does make it more relatable. And it
Yeah.
shows that and this is something that Marvel at least in the past has done really well. I'm not really sure if they're doing it well nowadays
Hmm.
because they've been focusing more on building up to this big event rather than anything else. But back then, Marvel did really well with humanizing their characters. It wasn't
Yeah.
just, you know, like this is, and I say this all the time when I compare Marvel and DC. DC does their best with trying to make these characters more heroic, more like if, like for example, Superman. Yeah, he's got Clark Kent, but you focus more on the Superman aspect. Batman, you focus more on him being Batman rather than him being billionaire Bruce Wayne.
Hmm.
When it comes to Marvel, they tend to take their characters and try to make them more human.
Hmm.
Like, for example, you watch, and again, Iron Man 3, you watch that and you see Tony Stark going out of his suit and doing what he needs to do. Captain America Winter Soldier had the majority of the movie where when Captain America was fighting, he was fighting in street clothes. He wasn't in his, iconic costume.
Hmm.
Thor's Thor.
Yeah, Thor's Thor.
Thor's Thor.
Thor can rock some casual wear.
He can rock some casual wear, but again, scenes like that show more humanity to the characters. It shows something that sort of everyone wants in a little
Yeah.
group.
Oh, also, this is something worth mentioning. But the MCU doesn't really care that much about secret identities.
No.
Like they I'm not sure how different that is from the comics
N-
because
Um,
as far as I'm aware, in terms of the MCU, because the only hero that I can think of that really does care about a secret identity is Spider-Man.
mhm. Well, that's a key thing in general for the character. Outside of that, like we've got heroes that like to keep their identity secret, but not to the same extent as Spider-Man. Spider-Man has it where there's only a handful of people who know he's Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Whereas other superheroes are like, well, I'm not going to reveal my identity to like the average person, but because you're also a superhero, I will share my identity with you. I think
yeah,
one of the key people like that is Matt Murdock, the Daredevil.
yeah.
I mean, considering he is a lawyer, so kind of.
Hmm. Yeah. Also, just want to mention Ant-Man real quick because it's phase two. I think it's an
Hmm.
all right movie. I think it's fun. It's got some good scenes in it.
Hmm.
Um, it's got that fun interaction with Falcon.
Yep.
Yeah. But then we get phase three, which is a wild phase. Um,
Yes.
Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, and Spider-Man Far From Home. So this is the
Mm.
most amount of movies, and some of these are either like some of the greatest movies in the MCU, possibly one of the greatest movies of all time,
Hmm.
or they're okay at best. Of the ones that I've not seen Doctor Strange, I've not seen Black Panther, and I
Hmm.
have not seen Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Okay. All right. So I think we should probably just start with the beginning of the phase, which is Captain America Civil War.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I
Captain America Civil War is one of those things where like you either got people that love it or hate it because
hmm
there are those diehards. Like I've not read the comic, but I know it is different from the comic.
well, it has to be different because you're relying on the characters you have access to,
Hmm.
not just every character. Because,
Yeah,
the X-Men are a big part of Civil War. The Fantastic Four are a huge part of Civil War. The
yeah. This
entire
is
start of the Civil War comes from this team called the New Warriors, which haven't even been introduced in the MCU to this
mhm.
date. Not to say that they couldn't find a way to introduce them, but that's still like there was no big introduction for them, so there's no.
This, this makes me wonder if they should have called the third Captain America movie something else. Because calling it Civil War makes it so that way it's like, oh yeah, we're taking a majority of things from the comic. Even though a majority of these MCU movies, like they'll take aspects from the comics, but like they don't really go, they just take the concepts, but they spin them into like their own ideas.
Hmm. So I will be in half agreement with that. I agree that, calling it Civil War, but then not having it in as great of a scale might not have been the best choice. But the idea of not calling it Civil War when it is the Avengers getting torn apart,
Yeah.
like, again, it's to a lesser degree, but it is still, tearing the superhero community apart because now, you've got one side who's like, yes, we should be government officials. We should be able to share our identities and have our powers regulated. And the other half's like, oh, we shouldn't. Although they
Yeah.
did stray away from that, and the fight became more a fight between Bucky. Should Bucky be condemned for the stuff he's done, or should be able to walk free?
No. That's probably the one thing I want to keep is like I wanna have at least one movie where the heroes are together, but then they split apart for a while because of conflicting ideologies.
Mm-hmm.
Except I think they could go even further. I think Civil War doesn't go that far with it.
No.
Like, cause like as much as I like Civil War, Civil
Mm-hmm.
War is like one of those movies I really like to watch. I like seeing all the characters that get introduced, including Spider-Man. It's
Mm-hmm.
cool. That's fun. I I honestly think that fight between Captain America and Iron Man was one of the best aspects of that movie. Because that main fighting scene where they're in the airport, it's a fun battle because it's got fun interactions, but in terms of the actual fighting,
Mm-hmm. It's
you're not really convincing me that you guys are being totally torn apart. I mean, yes, there are characters that are like not completely on one side and they're just kind of like, hey, we're just gonna be on your side just to get along with you
yeah.
because whatever.
I mean, I'd say the
Um,
biggest thing with that is that little fight between Hawkeye and Black Widow where they're fighting, but then they pause the fight to be like, "Hey, are we still friends?" Yeah, it depends on how hard you hit me.
being double agents is their thing.
I
It's
know.
the it, it's their thing. I mean, I like it. I that's one of my favorite aspects to those characters in particular. Makes them more interesting. But yeah, it's not very convincing when you have a fight scene like that. If it
Hmm.
just had that scene and it didn't have that ending scene with Captain America and Iron Man, I think I would have like I don't think I wouldn't like that movie as much. But you
Hmm.
know, it did kickstart the split between the Avengers. Um, but that gives us the opportunity to explore other heroes and some new
Hmm.
ones like Doctor Strange,
Yep.
uh, continue and Spider-Man and Black
Hmm.
Panther.
Yes. Yep. So for Doctor Strange, whereas the other movies tended to focus on, with the exception of Thor, focusing a lot more on grounded or like I don't know how I should phrase this. Doctor
Hmm.
Strange ends up adding some extra like magic, mysticism
Yeah.
to this, and builds on this idea that there are actually secret societies, albeit the secret society is more just a society of magicians and wizards who are protecting the world from other types of uh enemies, villains, like Dormammu. It builds on there are powers much stronger in the universe,
Hmm.
which I feel like in terms of world building, as long as you do it to actually set stuff up, I feel like it's great. I feel like that's the biggest thing with Doctor Strange, though. Because in
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, they introduced Dormammu, and it's probably one of the most creative fights that I've ever seen. Because in this movie, Jake,
Yeah.
spoilers, Dormammu kills Doctor Strange again and again and again because Doctor Strange threw him in a time loop.
Yeah. That's
But
so fun.
yeah, I mean, it adds another extra layer,
Hmm.
but a lot more could have been done with. that film.
Yeah, that's again, I've not seen Doctor Strange, but I've heard people talk about it. I think this is another one of those movies where it's just like it's good to find the origin of Doctor Strange to see how he comes to be, which I know they show that in the beginning,
Mm.
but the majority of the movie is not that.
No, the
Um,
majority of the movie is the backstory.
well, well, yeah, it is the backstory, but then you got all the other stuff. But it's another one of those movies where it's just like you don't really need to watch it to get like some of the other ones. Um, that actually includes, I think, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Hmm.
But unlike Doctor Strange, I think it's really great. I think it is on par with the original Guardians of the Galaxy, although
Hmm.
for different reasons. Guardians of the Galaxy was more bombastic. And while there
Hmm.
are some bombastic elements to Volume 2, I think this one is more grounded,
Hmm.
you know, because like, you know, they do some weird stuff in that movie,
Hmm.
but they also like it's very touching, and I feel like you need to have like those relationship elements for the
Hmm.
MCU. I think
Yes.
that helps to build your characters up a lot more.
Yep. He may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your
We want
daddy.
your daddy. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And then we get Spider-Man Homecoming, which again is another one of those movies that I don't think you have to watch in order to get like Infinity War and Endgame, but
no.
it's still a good
It,
movie.
it is. It is. It's showing how a young superhero is finding his way in this new world.
And I think this was a good movie to come out after Guardians of the
Hmm.
Galaxy Volume 2 because at this point, you know, we're getting into more of the cosmic elements and like
Hmm.
well, we got Thor Ragnarok after that. But like
Yep.
but but Homecoming it's more fun. You
Hmm.
know, there are some stakes in that movie, but I do think for the most part it's way more lighthearted. And I think you need to possibly we could get a couple of movies discovering superheroes. Not necessarily just Spider-Man, although I will always take another Spider-Man movie any day.
Hmm.
Um, uh, that kind of explore those elements, explore some younger heroes that don't have too much weight right
Right.
now. They're just given little guys stuff to do and just take care of their own city and just see what they can learn from that.
Hmm.
Um, Thor Ragnarok. Okay, this is the best Thor movie. I'm sorry. Like,
No, I will agree to that one.
yeah, this one is the movie that took the weird space stuff from Guardians of the Galaxy and applied it to a superhero movie.
Hmm.
Um, and like it's just so fun. And it's got one of my favorite Stan Lee cameos where spoilers, he cuts Thor's hair.
Yes. You will not cut my hair. Please don't cut my hair, sir. Yeah, I feel like with this one, like, because this one was such a drastic tonal change to the character of Thor, whereas up to this point, Thor was a little more serious. Now he does have some comedic elements to it. And I
Yeah.
know this particular topic is a strong thing in the community because we've got those people who are like, Thor's a god, he should not be funny. He should be a lot more serious. Whereas there's some people who are like, yeah, but funny Thor is a great Thor because, you know, he's not like he's not just uptight, he's
Yeah.
whimsical. And I feel
Hmm.
like for a character like Thor, like,
Yeah.
yes, I agree. Maybe a more serious Thor is a lot more helpful. It's a lot more understanding. I feel like a funny Thor can be a lot better, especially if you have it where he's funny because of the drastic change from Asgard's culture to this culture. Think of it like the scene from Thor where he goes and says another and smashes a cup on the ground. That part's funny because he's a fish out of water. As time goes on, I feel like, especially with him being around Iron Man, who tends to have more comedic moments, him adapting more comedic moments sort of builds on his character, showing that he's more than just a one-dimensional, like all-around serious guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, so what do you have to say about Black Panther?
All right, so with Black Panther, it introduced the world or the country of Wakanda, and
Mhm.
introduced this entire almost futuristic world.
Yeah.
And just like some of the other movies, you don't necessarily have to watch Black Panther to get an understanding of what's going to happen in Infinity War or Endgame,
Yeah.
but it is still a fun watch. It focuses a lot on tradition and culture, specifically when is it or specifically should we have it where a tradition that lasted years ago continues on to a certain point, or should we adapt it as the world goes on?
Hmm.
Plus, I would say, like, out of everything Phase 3 had, I felt like, especially the later movies in Phase 3, had some of the best MCU villains.
Hmm.
Killmonger arguably being the best one outside of Thanos.
Hmm.
Because again, he's not just, oh, I'm gonna do evil for the sake of evil. He's more, hey, this country has resources that could be valuable to other people. Granted, he
Hmm.
uses them more for war than anything else, but it's still this idea of if you have something, should you try to share it with the world or should you keep it to yourself?
Yeah.
Hmm. But then this all leads up to the big movie, arguably, in my opinion, the best Avengers movie,
Yeah.
Avengers Infinity War.
It's one of the best MCU movies, I think.
I,
Um,
I would agree with that.
it's got really great pacing. It's got
Mhm.
really great moments. All these different characters coming together. It's
Mhm.
just it's a lot of fun. It really is.
Right.
Um, yeah,
And
and
it
I do think we need to have another movie like that.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, that could be
and
Doomsday.
yeah, Doomsday, but it's hard to say whether they'll live up to something like Infinity War or even like the original Avengers.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but then we got Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel. I've not seen Ant-Man and the Wasp. I know the only notable thing about that movie is that it includes a post-credit scene that kind of ties over into Endgame.
Mhm. Yep. Uh yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp is basically answering the question, what was Ant-Man doing during this time? And what he was doing was basically taking part in COVID before COVID happened. In all seriousness, Ant-Man was under house arrest. He spent the entire movie trying not to get caught, while at the same time trying to stop, these people from. I actually don't remember what the plot was.
Hmm.
I know there was a character, or I know there was a character called Ghost, whose entire thing is trying to find a cure for her powers that are slowly hurting her. I don't remember what Sonny Birch did in the film. think he was trying to take Pimtech. I don't know.
Mm,
It was a fun movie to say the least.
yeah. And then we got Captain Marvel, which we've actually already detailed when we were doing our ranking of movies.
Hmm.
I think this movie would have been way better if it paid off a lot in Endgame. That's all I'll say about it.
Right.
Yeah. But then Avengers Endgame, I
Mhm.
like this movie. I don't think it's as great as Infinity War.
No.
Uh,
No. I mean, I've shared my opinions in the past, but I'm going to reiterate. Whereas Infinity War focuses a lot on how the characters interact with each other to try and team up to fight a main villain. This one focuses more on trying to find a solution, and the solution is a horrible solution
yeah.
where they could have probably done some more world building because they knew they were going to be focusing on more aspects of the Marvel Universe later on. They instead are like, let's time travel. What could go wrong?
Yeah. They tell you in the movie not to think about the time travel.
Yeah, too bad. I'm thinking of the time travel.
Yeah.
I will say later on in Loki, Loki made the time travel a little better.
Yeah.
Explain that no, you change stuff, but it branched off into a different reality, and we have to prune that reality.
Yeah.
So it makes a
The best
little.
the best aspect of this movie will always, well, the beginning is great. Beginning is great. But the
Mhm.
ending though, ending is
Yes,
fantastic. And
yes.
I think
That that final fight is probably
mhm.
one of the best. Maybe not one of the best, but it is a really great fight,
Mhm.
especially as a finishing, and you've got certain build-ups that you've wanted, like Captain America holding Mjolnir, and
Yeah.
you know, the uh the infamous I am Iron Man where he snaps his finger.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then the whole saga ends with Spider-Man Far From Home, which it's an interesting way to end the saga. I think if they ended it on Endgame, I don't think people would have questioned it.
Hmm.
But I kind of like Spider-Man Far From Home just by the fact that you kind of see the after effects of what happened after, you know,
I
some of
mean,
the events that happened in Infinity War and Endgame. Um,
slightly.
yeah, but it's still a fun movie, still a fun Spider-Man movie.
Yes.
Um, uh, but that's the Infinity Saga. Now,
Hmm.
I'll be honest, because we shouldn't do this for too much longer. But the
Hmm.
multiverse saga. Okay, I've only seen Spider-Man No Way Home, Thor Love
Hmm.
and Thunder, um, Deadpool and Wolverine,
Hmm.
uh, and the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
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 So the multiverse saga does have three phases.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, so like phase four is like Black Widow, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, the Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Hmm.
Phase five is Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, The Marvels, Deadpool and Wolverine, Captain America Brave New World, and Thunderbolts. Um, and then phase six, which is what we're currently in right now. Fantastic Four came out last year, which me and Xavier saw, and it
Hmm.
was a good movie. Spider-Man Brand New Day was just coming out in about a month and a
Hmm.
half.
About.
Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars.
Hmm. All right. So this is where it gets a lot more. difficult to follow along because not only do they have those movies, but they've also introduced a bunch of Marvel TV series like, Moon Knight, WandaVision, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and you know, as time goes on, they keep adding more and more to it, where you have to try to figure out, okay, does this connect or does this not connect? Like I know
Yeah,
right,
the oh no, go ahead.
like
Sorry.
I know the most recent TV show was Daredevil Born Again, which was initially the characters from Daredevil Born Again were in the Netflix Daredevil shows, and those weren't connected to the MCU, but now they are.
Hmm.
So but that's where a lot of the confusion comes in now, because now you've got, oh, they've come back, but their first show doesn't match. Like it matches, but it doesn't really match. And then
Yeah.
you've got stuff like Marvel Zombies, X-Men 97, or Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, where they take place in an alternate universe. They're probably not gonna be big on, or like they're not gonna create too much of a blip in your watching. And
Yeah.
then, as if Marvel didn't give you a big enough middle finger, they have it where these movies that you're watching are now connecting to other movies outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like the
Yeah.
Fox X-Men movies or the
Hmm.
Sony Spider-Man movies.
Yeah. I think uh with this saga, again, I've not seen like every movie, but it feels like to me, as much as I appreciate some of these movies not like necessarily connecting to a bigger arc. I mean, I love Spider-Man No Way Home. That was a really great movie.
Hmm.
Thor Love and Thunder, I think gets a lot of hate. I actually really like that movie. Um,
Hmm.
Not as great as Ragnarok, but it's close to there. Um,
All right.
I've not seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but I want to. I
Yeah,
need to watch it.
that one's a fun movie. Really
Yeah,
emotional.
yeah. And then Deadpool and Wolverine, which is, the first movie to include, you know, because back then, Marvel was given, movie rights to like other companies to make them for them. But since Disney purchased Fox, they got, those characters again.
Hmm.
I'm surprised Deadpool and Wolverine was even a thing to begin with, considering the fact that like the Deadpool movies are R-rated. But I'm so glad this was
Yes.
a thing. This was one of the funnest movies to come out in 2024. It was
Hmm.
awesome.
Yep.
Um, and then Fantastic Four First Steps. This is probably the only movie that sets up Avengers Doomsday, I think.
Um, Sets it up in the same, because what the way that Fantastic Four sets up Doomsday is more based on the post-credit scene, which is
Mm-hmm.
similar to the Thunderbolts, where their end credit scene focuses a lot on how there's a big fight between the new Avengers, or the Thunderbolts team, that's the Avengers, and then the Avengers that are being created by Sam Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
and Captain America: Brave New World ominously sets up the idea of incursions, the whole multiverse collapsing from, you know, arguably the main villain of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I'd say one of the biggest things that was going on during the multiverse saga was Marvel was trying a lot of new things.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to get a feel for what they should do, what they shouldn't do, and
Mm-hmm.
working around that.
Yeah. I feel like things feel a little bit haphazard now because I don't see many people talking about a lot of these movies. Like they again, casual mindset, they're just gonna go for like the one-offs.
Hmm.
But I think it's getting a little bit better
Yes.
because I know a lot of people went to go see Fantastic Four. I
Hmm.
and Deadpool and Wolverine, it doesn't really I'm not sure if it really connects with like Avengers Doomsday, but that's just a really fun movie. That movie
Right.
just exists on its own.
Right.
I
And I
think.
know Captain America, Brand New Day, and Thunderbolts, when those movies came out, there was a lot of controversy around them
Oh
because there
yeah.
were a bunch of fans that didn't like them. But I feel like nowadays, when discussion comes up with them, people are like, yeah, these are fairly solid movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm not sure if because we're getting towards the end here.
Hmm.
Because Spider-Man Brand New Day is gonna be coming out in a month and a half. Me and Xavier are talking about having plans to go see it.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and then we got Avengers Doomsday coming at the end of the year, and then Secret Wars. Um,
Hmm.
so I don't think we've talked much about like some of the stuff that we think they should take away because we mostly talked about stuff. We talked about um having world building.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've pretty much been talking about what they already have.
Yeah, yeah, which is some of
So,
the stuff that I think they should keep or that, they'll probably definitely keep no matter what.
right.
Um,
So now
so
it's,
so what do you think for either of these sagas that they think they should take away
I
or
feel
not
like,
do?
I feel like one of the biggest things that they should take away, again, is trying to make everything connected to something else. Like,
Hmm.
don't get me wrong, I love the idea that, oh, this character is gonna be in this movie, this movie, and this movie, and they have an entire arc between all three of these movies. But at the same time, I feel like if they focus more on standalone films, like one-off comics, or,
Hmm.
well, sort of like one-off comics,
Yeah.
you could get a lot more done. You don't have to worry too much on, okay, but how does this connect to this character or this character or this character?
Hmm.
I also feel like they should take away, like, because this was a big issue when it came to Captain America Civil War. It was a big issue with uh Age of Ultron. It was a big issue with Thor Ragnarok. I feel like if they're going to go and take a major comic, I
Hmm.
feel like they should take away the label of connecting it to certain people. I know we've discussed that a little bit with Civil War,
Yeah.
but like, for example, Thor Ragnarok had elements from Planet Hulk, which is one of
Hmm.
my favorite Hulk comics to have ever been made. And as fun as it is, kind of a little disappointed because it's like, oh yeah, Hulk's here. Hulk's fighting with.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, but that is an intriguing story. It focuses a lot on Hulk as a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And then
it focuses on Bruce Banner as a character a little bit.
just a little bit. Speaking of the Hulk,
Hmm.
I feel like, especially later Marvel,
Hmm.
they focused on Bruce Banner and the Hulk less as like they focused more on trying to connect them rather than
Yeah,
what I felt the true essence of the Hulk is, which is the misunderstood monster.
yeah,
They focused more on the Hulk being like purely good and helping, that they didn't focus on this idea of Hulk's still considered an outcast. He's still being hunted, not really
yeah,
being liked.
yeah. As much as I enjoy the Bruce Banner Hulk combo that they've been doing since Endgame,
Hmm.
I don't think it does much to help develop the character.
No, no,
As
I.
much as much as I like those scenes, thinking about it now, it's like they kind of, they were kind of building something with
Hmm.
Age of Ultron, and Ragnarok Infinity War, with like the conflict that the Hulk had, um, and I think they could have done it with Endgame and they just didn't. They were
Hmm.
just like, let's just have Bruce Banner be Hulk, you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
I mean, like he got the body of Hulk, but got the brain of Bruce Banner.
Hmm. I feel like this is something that I think Marvel needs to do a lot more with their characters. Not
Mhm.
just have it where they're focusing on them being heroes, but again, we were talking about how they're being more humanized, but there are certain aspects to these characters that is completely thrown away just to build up this whole superhero side. Like, Iron Man, he we were talking about how he was a big or he adapts, he makes things or he does things in the attempts to make things better. What I would like to see in an Iron Man movie is that demon in the bottle story that focuses on him and his alcoholism. Because I feel like this is something like, granted, kids aren't going to understand it. They're probably not going to like it. But I feel like, especially when it comes to more adult audiences, that's going to draw them in more because alcoholism is a real problem that can sort of make Iron Man be more relatable to the average person. Or, I know there was a lot of PTSD stuff for certain characters. You know which character I haven't really seen get PTSD flashbacks in the MCU?
No.
Captain America, who is the war veteran.
Yeah,
We see
yeah,
we see Thor have some PTSD. We see Iron Man with PTSD. We don't really see Captain America with it. Not to say it's something big for his character, because I haven't really read too many Captain America comics, but
yeah,
I feel like having it where he's dealing with the trauma of actually being in war, where the rest of
yeah.
the team,
Yeah, you see that a little bit in Avengers where he's coping with the fact that like he's been asleep for 70 years.
mm-hmm,
Um, but you don't really get anything like that after that. After
no,
that, he's kind of like that guy where if anything, I think Iron Man got more PTSD than Captain America does.
yeah, well, honestly, that's the entire premise of Iron Man 3. It's Iron Man has such horrible PTSD that he's staying up at night building all these suits to prepare
Yeah.
for. Yeah. Um, I'd say probably the only other thing that I feel like the MCU should be taking away from the Infinity Saga and the Multiverse Saga, it's the reliance on other characters. We see this a lot when it comes to Spider-Man,
Mm.
where in all three Spider-Man movies, like, yes, he's pretty much fighting on his own, but he's using like he's using Stark tech.
Yeah.
He's or he's getting help from Doctor Strange, or he's
Or Nick
working with
Fury.
right. And it's great when it comes to a story where you're a young hero trying to make your way up, but
Hmm.
it sort of eliminates the resourcefulness of Spider-Man.
Yeah. I think they're gonna fix that in Brand New Day.
Oh, they're gonna fix it in Brand New Day.
Yeah, maybe unless they do like a post-credit scene where it's just like, hey, we want you back on like the Avengers or something.
Well, how can they do that? Nobody remembers him.
They'll find a workaround.
They will
They'll
find
they'll
a
fi-
workaround.
they'll find they'll find some stupid workaround. This is one of those things that I have a problem with, not just for the MCU, but for anything, period. Because like I remember in Fantastic Beasts when like one of the characters got his memory wiped at the end of the first movie. But then in the second movie, he's just like, "Oh, it just all come back to me." It's just like that's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of that. Like, can we not have these stupid BS unlogical reasons why people suddenly get their memories back, even if it's using freaking magic or well, actually in the case of Spider-Man it was
Mm-hmm.
magic. But still,
All
like
right. All right. But like I said, out of all of it, that's what I say Marvel should, you know, take away, like leave when they go to reboot.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, granted,
Yeah.
I have things they should add, but that'll be coming up soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, uh yeah, and with some of the stuff that they should keep and they should take away from like these sagas,
Hmm.
I think I think the Infinity Saga I still think is one of the strongest sagas, even though like you got those duds in
Hmm.
there. You got quite a bit of duds. But when you got movies like Iron Man 1 and 3, the
Hmm.
Captain America trilogy, Thor Ragnarok, um, the Avengers movies, regardless of our feelings of Age of Ultron and Endgame, at worst, they're still okay. Um,
Yes.
um, and you got the Spider-Man movies, you got some of the other ones too.
Hmm.
Um, I just think there's some stuff where I feel like the solo movies in particular are the ones that get kind of iffy with like whether they're gonna be pretty important or they're just gonna be
Hmm.
whatever, whatever movies.
Right.
Yeah, but with that being said, overall, whether a reboot happens or not, we
Hmm.
hope that you know whatever saga that they come up with next, which is
Hmm.
this is the other thing, and I imagine they're gonna do this, given that Fantastic Four is the thing. It's just like include some of those other superheroes because
Hmm.
they weren't able to add them before because they didn't have the rights to make movies on them.
Right.
Uh, but now that they have those rights,
Hmm.
um, they can start bringing in the X-Men. They
Hmm.
can start bringing in, Fantastic Four and all those other superheroes that I think they deserve as much limelight as the heroes that we've gotten to know from like the Avengers.
Hmm. Speaking of the X-Men,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go back to what I was talking about earlier with Stan Lee. You know how
Yeah.
you were talking about you wanted to keep the Stan Lee cameos, but you can't really because he's not really around anymore.
Yeah.
So I've got two candidates that I think should replace him.
Okay.
The first one, Wolverine. I with him, it's because of his age. He
Mm-hmm.
is, if I remember correctly, in the comics, he was born in the 16 or 1700s.
Mm-hmm.
So he could span, at least for the majority of when a bunch of the Marvel heroes would have been around, including being able to fight alongside Captain America in World War II. So I feel like if you had a cameo of Wolverine in every movie, it would be sort of the equivalent of the Stanley cameo. Probably wouldn't get as much nostalgia, but it's still Wolverine. He's coming in. The other candidate, and this is just for sheer lunacy, Deadpool.
That'd be fun. That'd
Mhm.
be
The
fun.
funniest part is you can see him and you'll be like, why is he here? That's Deadpool. I'm sure there's some dumb explanation.
Mm-hmm. He'll find his way.
Yeah.
He always does. Even when he doesn't know.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, can I say one more thing that I feel like the MCU should add?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I feel like the MCU, like I love the fact that they're making these standalone movies that shows the backstory of certain heroes. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they should add a lot more heroes that are more pre-existing,
Mm-hmm.
just so that it's not, oh, well, we need to introduce this hero and this hero and this hero to join the team, and they're,
Mm-hmm.
making all these movies that won't really match up until you get there. Instead, I would feel like it'd be a lot better if it's like, oh yeah, by the way, this hero's here. You know. And if they happen to need something to explain it, then they can do something with that. But like especially again, going back to Civil War, Civil War would have had a much bigger impact if it wasn't the Avengers that caused the damage. If it was instead, again, a team like the New Warriors, where they're young, they're immature, and they didn't know what they were going into.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but overall, I feel like that's pretty much all I would like to see added to the MCU.
Yeah. I just want all these to be good movies at the very least. They don't have to be the best movies, but
No.
I definitely want to. And again, I plan on like also rewatching like the Star Wars movies too,
Mm-hmm.
for different reasons. But for the MCU movies, it's just like, you know, um, those ones from the Infinity Saga are just like really great to go back to. Um, and you know, my hope is that like we get some of those aspects in the reboot for the MCU. If it happens, mo I feel like it should happen just by the fact that like things have just gone crazy now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of things feel haphazard right now. And I think a reboot has to happen for the fact that like, I kind of feel the same way about Super Smash Brothers. Um Super Smash Brothers Ultimate features so many damn characters. And while that was a big selling point for the game, I feel like they need to cut back the roster.
Mm.
Um and really focus in on other stuff. And I feel like that should be the same case for the MCU. I
Yeah.
feel like that, well, and I'm not saying cutting characters necessarily, but rather it's just I want cut the fat, the unnecessary fat that doesn't need to be there. Try to make things a little bit more grounded from the beginning before you start going all crazy again.
Mm-hmm.
Because with the multiverse saga, I think they just continued on with the craziness and just
Yes.
didn't really know when to pull back.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, maybe they'll find something. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, I had fun with this.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, we talked about a topic that brings me a lot of comfort, you know,
Mhm.
to a point where I feel like the next topic should involve some sort of comfort stuff, if you know what I mean.
You'll have to tell me when we log off.
Will do. Will do. But no, I felt that this was a really good topic. I feel like maybe in a future episode we could probably discuss, like, yeah, I know it might be a little harder for you just because you probably haven't read as many comics as I have. You haven't followed the MCU as much as I have. But maybe coming up with where we would think, like maybe where we think the movies should go, as in, what movie should start a reboot of this, how we should continue it, just
Yeah,
small stuff like that.
that'd be cool.
Yeah. Yep. But with that being said, I feel like this is the end of the episode. So we're your hosts, Xavier Dean,
And Jacob Green.
saying thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay cool out there. And again, going back to especially our hometown, if there's
Mhm.
anyone who you know has been affected by the recent string of tornadoes, and
Mhm.
there's any way you can help, please do your best to try to help them. You know, we're all human. We need to stay together, especially in a time of crisis like this.
Mhm.
With
Watch
that
some
be
MCU movies together.
Yes, watch some MCU movies together. All right. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week, everyone.